major challenges. We have our sort of traditional big three, as we all know, HIV, malaria, and TB. There are tremendous problems that that still need to be solved in this area, but most experts believe that we are seeing very significantly positive trends, both when it comes to treatment rates in these diseases, as well as prevention efforts, and we also see enhanced R&D output of novel compounds that address these challenges. We have the classical area of so-called neglected tropical diseases. I'm so very happy that this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology has been awarded to the scientists who developed ivermectin. So maybe if the Nobel Prize goes to neglected tropical disease work, then we can maybe drop the N within the entities going forward. We've also seen that partnerships between international organizations, governments, civil society, and companies like ours, such as the so-called London Declaration on Neglected Tropical Disease, has achieved major progress. We're seeing that we're coming close to the elimination of some of the major challenges. We see growing challenges within the field of NCDs, non-communicable diseases. In today's world, many more people die of non-communicable diseases in low and middle income countries than people die in high-income countries, and more people die of NCDs than they die of the traditional problems that I was just talking about. So that also requires a special approach. We as Merck, and also the organization that I stand for, IFPMA, and our industry is undertaking serious efforts to contribute toward progress in this area. And then we have novel challenges. We have the situation of antimicrobial resistance. Currently, there's a lot of focus on this. I was fortunate to have been part of a team to advise Chancellor Angela Merkel for the G7 summit. It is notable, it is highly notable that in the G7 agenda that we have such important health topics featuring at the summit, and it's also worthwhile to note that the Japanese presidency of the G7 will continue to work on this. We need to find ways to address market failure in this area, and we need to be innovative about this. And very importantly, there's this question of pandemic preparedness. The Ebola crisis has taught us many lessons. It has taught us that health systems, especially in West Africa, but in many other low-income countries, do require strengthening. Not only health systems, but also systems for doing research in the area that is most affected. The other lesson that we've learned is, however, that the incredible courage and competence of some of the governments that had to address this challenge with very limited means is something that we can build on going forward. Several African countries have demonstrated that even in the time of such incredible crisis, that they can manage a situation like this. Not everywhere. You see problems in sort of very, very blatant, obvious problems in some countries, but we've seen, I would say, heroism in some other countries. So we're deeply impressed by it. We've also learned that we need to do more in R&D. I'm very happy to see that three of our member companies, when I speak about our member companies, I speak about IFPMA, have been actively engaged in developing vaccines. We need to enhance partnership. We need to enhance partnership between WHO and our industry, between NGOs and our industry, between our industry and society at large. We need to engage in an early dialogue about which pathogens we should focus on in addressing major diseases. And we need to enhance the dialogue between the scientific community in the public and in the private sector. And that is, I will close my close my speech with that appeal. We believe that the world has changed, and we should all recognize that wherever we have made progress on important topics, such as within the MDGs that I was talking about, it was because we engaged in partnership, and we put aside traditional ideological barriers about whether we are public sector or private sector or civil society or whatever. We agreed on addressing certain problems. We as Merck, we are, as my colleague said, we used to refer to us as a pharmaceutical and chemical company. In today's world, we are a science and technology company. We have very different businesses. We have a biopharmaceutical business, we have a life science tool business, we have a performance materials business. So any one of you who has an iPhone or a laptop or whatever, it's just unavoidable to be using our technology. Any one of you who works in a biomedical lab, it is unavoidable to use either what we used to call Merck Millipore, or be in the process of integrating sigma-Aldrich reagents or machines or technologies. And those of you who work in biotechnology manufacturing are also using our technology. Those of you who work in the clinic are hopefully in touch with our technology. So we are a company that is where science and technology is at the core, and this is why we're very proud to be able to contribute to this event under the patronage of a UNESCO and highly reputable scientific institutions. We wish you success, and in order for you to have more time to work, I will now end my speech. Thank you very much.
And one thing I would like us to remember about Dr. Oschmann is that he's passionate about Africa. All the emerging researchers right here, there are lots of things he's done in Africa because he's a firm believer in the continent, and he believes, as he has put it, that we have the solution. I would once more request you to put your hands together to applaud Dr. Oschmann. Thank you very much. Now to address this summit on the role of pharmaceutical industries in supporting research, I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Leereveld Wim. Dr. Leereveld established the Access to Medicine Foundation in 2004. He is currently CEO and leads a team taking a hands-on role in the foundation's day-to-day strategic operation. He also oversees the publication of Biennial Access to Medicine Index, which aims to stimulate positive change by publicly rewarding pharmaceutical companies for their efforts and encouraging improvements. Prior to forming the foundation, he was co-founder of PMSI, and WASH International, leading providers of information services to the healthcare industry. Both WASH and PMSI later went on to become listed on NASDAQ Stock Exchange. Dr. Leereveld, and all apologies. Mr. Leereveld is a regular speaker on the importance of healthcare companies working to provide medicine to the world's poorest people at conferences and other events. Please put your hands together as we invite him to the floor.
Well, I really feel privileged to be here, honorable guests and ladies and gentlemen. So it's a real pleasure. The recent Ebola outbreak is a wake-up call, and the question is, can we prepare for new infections we don't know anything about? I would say that the outbreak is a reminder of the limitations of a system of incentivizing research and development for diseases that disproportionately affect low and middle income countries. Yes, there were compounds in the pipeline, but there was simply no incentive to push these things through. So this is what I'm going to talk about. What can we do? So can we change the system? Who am I to speak here before you? I was a businessman, like the introduction just told. I was a businessman that more than 15 years talked to the big pharmaceutical companies. In the morning I spoke to Glaxo, and in the lunchtime I had a meeting with Pfizer, and perhaps in the late night I had a meeting with Hoffmann and Roche. And I learned a lot out of these 15 years. And after, after my company went to the stock market, let's be very honest to you, I could pay off the mortgage of my house. And I said to my wife, what can we do? There is a time, and my wife said to me, if you don't do it now, Wim, you will never do it again. Because this is the time for you to do what you always wanted. And I started this foundation, and at a certain stage, I thought, I presented at the World Health Organization, and I said to the people at the World Health Organization, I think you speak to the wrong people in these companies. You should talk to the CEOs, to their leaders. And they are interested. You see that I was happy, Stefan, to see you today, because these leaders, I see them on all these meetings. Yes, they are dedicated to this issue. It's not only fun to earn money, it's fun to do something and to create a better world. And that's what I see today in these leaders. So, what was the problem? Let me go to the next slide, or I can do it myself. Yes, I think so. Okay. So far we often said, well, 2 billion people don't have access to medicine, and who to blame? I would say, well, let's put it different. Let's say, okay, the world organized to have medicines for 5 billion people. That's an achievement. 2 billion to go. Yes? So what is the problem for this? When I visited a lot of meetings, and I saw that, for example, Oxfam had a different opinion what to expect from companies than, for example, the World Health Organization. When you look at patents, you see that they have different opinions. And when I traveled to the financial world in London, these investors, they also care about the health issues. It's not only a social issue, it's also a business issue. If you create more health, you create more business. So these investors, they want to play their role also. They want to show the world also, apart from money, that they think about having health for the whole world. The question is, if all these opinions differ, what can we expect from Big Pharma? So my first task was, cannot we make a sort of consensus on what we want from the big pharmaceutical companies? Well, this could be a sort of consensus. We started to find out whether it was possible